mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts. How do we like our martial arts? We like them mixed. Yeah.
Wow, that is excitement personified. I mean, look at this graphic. Even the photographers, the social media graphics makers, realize that this UFC Seattle card has just been torn to shreds. It's cloudy and murky and a little bit rainy, but still a pretty solid main event. We have Henry Cejudo versus Song Yadong. We have a co-main event scheduled, but some drama potentially at weigh-ins. There is one fighter still left to hit the scale, and it is one half of the co-main event. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez has not weighed in yet, so we will monitor the drama together here on the UFC Seattle preview show. Thank you for joining us. I am Mike Heck, and joining me, Mr. No Gray Area himself, the hot take kid, the standing desk master himself, Mr. Jean Meshew. There he is, dancing.
I mean, the horns just get you so pumped up, guys. We're going to have fist fights tomorrow. We're going to have them all day because there's going to be boxing in the morning and then rainy, wet MMA in Seattle, Washington in the evening. And hopefully Fluffy Hernandez will be competing. But, Mike, are you feeling the pressure? Are you feeling the heat? He's yet to weigh in. He's on your team. He's your guy, Mike. How are you feeling right now?
I'm all right. You know, get the advantage any way you can. A win is a win, and a win over a ranked guy, whether he weighs 185, 186, or 197. It's all the same to me. He may not get a bonus, but it's okay. A ranked win is a ranked win.
Bonus may not even fight. Look, you've suffered. Your team has had some issues. Armin dropping the ball for you early. Another one may be catastrophic because, I mean, frankly, Casey is pulling away from the pack right now. So you need Fluffy in a big way. You've got a little over 10 minutes for him to hit that scale, Mike.
Well, we'll let you know what happens if he misses weight or doesn't make it to the scale. You'll get to see my reaction and Jed's reaction. Casey might laugh a little bit, even though he's very interested in this fight. But selfishly, Anthony Hernandez not fighting is good for his team. But let's get into this card, Jed, because there's been a lot of news this week. This card has been torn to shreds. The boxing card's been torn to shreds. We still have the main event of both cards, which is really good. What's your excitement level, I guess, for tomorrow? Like, if last week was an apple-picking card and an apple-picking day of combat sports, what is tomorrow with what these cards look like right now?
If these cards had held up, like if they had been what they were supposed to be, boxing suffered a little less, though still some. And honestly, the Martin McCauley stepping in on, like, literally flying to Saudi on a day's notice, like, just like, I'll catch the red eye, it's fine, is incredibly badass. But that's a drop off. Like, we wanted the Dubois Parker fight. We are still verging on apple picking here, like we are in the neighborhood of this is not can't miss, must see TV. This is missable, particularly this UFC card. It is certainly better than the Apex card last week. I think the main event, I am very fascinated by. The co-main event, knock on wood, such that it exists. If the co-main event, something happens, we'll circle back and talk about it. A lot of topics that, like, there are a lot of interesting fights or one fighter in it, at least. Certainly a better card. If I'm giving my score, we're not in the Meshew system here. I am sad to say this is a fights above replacement tussles scoring system. And just looking at this card, we've got 1, 2, 3, probably like about 5.5 in fights above replacement tussles. So about a 50% success rate here with 12 fights. Certainly you can do a lot worse than this for a Saturday night. If you have nothing else going on, this is absolutely one. If you do, we're just in a different range. Would I skip my wedding to watch this card? No. Would I skip, would I use some excuse to beg out of a, awkward social engagement with acquaintances instead of friends? Yeah, probably would do that. Be like, oh, honey, my boss is throwing a mixer. I can't. We gotta watch fights. So, we're in sort of that range, Mike, if that makes sense.
This card was supposed to have Ketlin Vieira versus Macy Chiasson. It was supposed to have Edson Barboza versus Steve Garcia. Adam Fugit versus Islam Dulatov. Then Adam Fugit versus Billy Ray Goff. Neither of those fights will happen. Curtis Blades versus Rizvan Kuniev. The UFC said, look, we can't just give Seattle all the goods. We got to spread the love to UFC 313. If there's one fight we got to move. Oh, apparently the Fluffster is getting ready to step on the scale. He's got
High
the box
drama.
of
The
he's got the
box,
box of redemption. The box of redemption.
or is it the box of shame? Is it the cone of shame,
see.
Mike?
We shall see. I think he's going to be okay. Dominic Cruz was supposed to be on this card against Rob Font. Rob Font remains on the card.
Time. Just spit. Just get to spitting, Fluffy. Do some jumping jacks right now.
Yes. So we are waiting to see what happens. Might as well just follow
High
this.
drama.
Let's just follow this trend at this point and see what's going on. Does he make weight? Is this fight official? Because, of course, Brendan Allen already made weight. He's ready to go. He's ready to avenge a loss from 2018.
He wants his redemption.
Yes. He wants his redemption. And it would be a little sweeter if he misses weight and gets a piece of Fluffy's purse as well. And high drama, ladies and gentlemen. We get to go through this all together and see if he makes the weight. I'm a little nervous right now. I'm
Michael?
jittery.
Can he do it, Michael?
The box is there. I don't know if he's actually arrived yet, though. Just the box has arrived. As I'm told, just the box is there.
He's using those extra minutes to really shave down. He's got to get the ounces down. He's taking this seriously. He is not going to come in and Charles Oliveira this and say, can't get that last half pound. Screw it. Take my belt. He is in it for the long haul.
All right. Well, I have a stream on the left-hand side here. And all we're seeing is just a speaker and a curtain, and that's about it. So once he comes out, we'll let you know how it all plays out. But while we wait for Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, who has a little over 5 minutes right now, let's talk about the main event. Henry Cejudo versus Song Yadong. The UFC obviously sees a lot in Song Yadong. They keep giving him these big fights, these big opportunities. The guys he's losing to are some of the best fighters in the world. Henry Cejudo had the worst retirement in the history of sports. I will maintain that and will continue to say that for the next 3 decades of my life. He came back. He was a judge's scorecard away from being the bantamweight champion. Very competitive fight with Aljamain Sterling. Had a good first round against Merab Dvalishvili, and then you could see the momentum changing at the end of round 1, and then Merab just kind of blew the doors off of him to set him up for a title fight. And Cejudo's been talking about this the entire time since this fight was announced. I need something to fight for. I love how my back's against the wall. This is my last title run. And if those words can't leave my mouth anymore, this is the last title run, I don't really have a ton of interest in fighting anymore. So let me ask you this, Jed. If Henry Cejudo goes out there and loses tomorrow, is this the last fight we will ever see of him inside the octagon?
It's a really good question. I'll say no, because I don't believe people retire from this sport. It's just so rare that we see a fighter retire from the sport and stay away. The sport really has to retire 99 out of every 100 fighters. And I have firm agreement. I mean, we have spent so much digital ink and word power. Oh, here comes Fluffy. Oh, he's in the towel.
Here he comes.
He's in the towel, boys and girls.
He's walking. Oh,
stepping behind the. Oh, he's behind the box. The drama is real.
The drama's unfolding.
Forward. Hands up. He's not DC.
Hands are up. Following the rules.
And the fist pump. The fist pump.
He made it. He made it.
Bonus eligible Mike Heck now. That is what.
Let's go.
This is why you come.
Ranked win. Bonus win. What a legend.
Maybe a
Just an absolute legend. 186 pounds for Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. The co-main event, as well as every fight on this card, now official. There we go. You heard it from Brendan Fitzgerald himself.
4 minutes to spare. That's called professionalism, Mike.
Dude, he got a new haircut. He's got the lines on the side that he just got buzzed in there. Dude was just getting a haircut. That's all. He was just getting a haircut. You want to look good for the
Just
weigh-in.
getting himself right before he gets in front of all these people in his dungarees. We were talking about Henry Cejudo, and I'm going to get us right back on track. I think once the word dungarees comes out, we can get back to the topic at hand. Henry
Yeah.
Cejudo, I am in agreement with you. Horrible retirement. If this is the last fight, if he loses and retires, then it is almost inarguably like the worst retirement in the history of this sport, because he retired at the peak of his powers as, as only one champion, but kind of a champ-ish, like he had never lost the flyweight belt. Transparently is retiring as a leverage play for money. Immediately, the UFC says, "Cool, you're retired, Petr Yan. Please have this belt, sir." And then he spends the next 18 months being like, I could come back, teasing a comeback before finally doing it. And when he does come back, the end of his retirement story is he retired, took some time off, came back, and then lost 3 fights in a row, even if he was competitive, even if some people thought he beat Aljo, I am not among those people, but some are there. One of the judges was there. Like, it's a catastrophic retirement. And I think he's got a chance to win. We'll get into this fight a little bit more. But if he does, or if he doesn't, if it's the last time out, it's hard for me to imagine it's the last time out, just because what he says is true, right? Like, he wants to fight for belts. Okay, everybody says that. And a lot of people then realize, maybe I can't fight for belts, but fighting hasn't left me. I like the competition. There are plenty of other reasons beyond titles to fight and compete. Maybe you just want to get in front of the crowd again, to be important, because the harsh truth of the fight game is when you are no longer competing, you are not important. Maybe you're still important to some degree. Maybe you're Daniel Cormier, you're a commentator. You can find ways to remain relevant, but your level of importance just drops dramatically when you are no longer in the cage taking the punches. And so, my default answer in these is always there'll probably one more. And I think Henry Cejudo has shown enough that he doesn't need to retire. And so even if he does lose, maybe he does just try and get a Legends tour. He tries and gets a Jose Aldo fight. Like, those are things that I think could still happen for him and will be meaningful, even if they're not title fights.
So as you're walking me through this, I think this is his last fight. If he loses, I think this is the last time he fights in the UFC. He's not a huge draw. He's certainly not as big of a draw as he thinks he is and thought he was when he announced his retirement. And he knew it was a bad move when literally hours after he knocked out stopped Dominic Cruz, Dana White went to the press conference and was like, all right, Petr Yan's going to fight for the vacant belt. They moved on from Henry Cejudo, not within months, not within weeks, not even within days, within hours. The UFC moved on. The division moved on without him, and they did it so fast. And it always gives me cause for pause a little bit when a fighter of Henry's prestige, his level of accomplishment, when he's starting to talk about retirement, that worries me a little bit. And the thing with Henry Cejudo is he's got the gift of gab. His podcast with Kamaru Usman's doing pretty well. He can grapple. He could still do a lot of things. And who knows if he retires from the UFC, you really think the UFC would fight him if he wanted to go to GFL? I don't think so. So I think this will be his last fight with the UFC if he loses. Could we see him fight for a GFL if they actually have an event, if this is a real thing? Maybe. There's still stuff he could do within the sport. He does coach a lot of fighters on the come up. So we will still see him around in some degree. Maybe he gets on the desk for the UFC. Like, there's lots of options for him. But I think, you lose to Aljo, you lose to Merab, really nightmarish matchups for him from a stylistic perspective. This is kind of a favorable stylistic matchup for him. And if he can't beat the Song Yadongs of the world, and Song's very good, I just don't know if the competitive juice is still going to be there for him. So let's just say he does lose this fight, Jed, and he does announce his retirement. And we talk about legacies being cemented and legacies being set with guys like Israel Adesanya and others who were in similar positions. What does a loss here do to Cejudo's legacy if he does lose, announces his retirement? Do we look at him the same way we look at Israel Adesanya? Because when he did walk away, this dude was at the peak of his powers. This dude was getting more popular. He was becoming a draw. He was becoming a dominant champion. He had the 2 division title. People were calling him the greatest combat athlete of all time. They were arguing that fact with everything he accomplished after he beat Dominic Cruz and left the sport. What does this do to his legacy if he loses a 3rd straight fight and then says, okay, I don't have it anymore, I'm done?
So we're clear, he was the one arguing greatest combat athlete.
There's others who have said the same, but I'm not saying
he's
that
not.
as fact.
But I think he, and honestly probably already is, he will just have one of those uniquely curious careers of what could have been, right? Like he will be, cautionary tale isn't entirely correct because he had so much success anyway, but he will be a what if, a man. Like you left a lot of meat on the bone here for a variety of reasons, and like frankly got into MMA a little late, right? Like he obviously, he was super young for his wrestling career, and then retired from that, and then sort of kind of slowly transitioned into MMA a little bit, and then even tried to kind of make a run back at wrestling. Like he just wouldn't really just dive whole hog all the way. And you are left thinking with him in both of his careers, like what could have been. He won the gold medal at like 21, I want to say. I think he was 20, like he wasn't 23. I think he was 20 or 21. Maybe he was even younger. And then just left the sport pretty much quickly after that. And like, okay, what could have been if you would stay, like you were a gold medalist? That's insane. But he stands at it, right? He went out at the peak, go out, leave him wanting. And he sort of did that with MMA, but for the transparency of it. Like, yeah, this is my, if he had just been honest, like, I would like them to pay me more money, and I think this is the way that it happens. He ended up being incorrect. And so he lost the legacy defining part of his career, right? Because you can't take away that he's a 2 division champion. Like, that is him. There are also kind of a lot of those now. Like there have historically been a fair amount of those. And so you get to be a Hall of Famer. He is a Hall of Famer when he does hang it up for real this time. If that's the case, he will go into the Hall of Fame shortly after that. But he's not one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. He's at best the 3rd best flyweight of all time. And that's probably a stretch to even suggest that, because he didn't really commit to establishing a long-term legacy in either division. Like he's, I don't know, one of the 50 greatest fighters in UFC history. Like that's a big number, so he's probably in that thing, but he missed the best part of his career basically in a contract negotiation that failed for him. And so he will be looked at as a man, you were great and you had a lot of success. You could have been greater. And maybe not. Like maybe he just loses, right? Maybe he has to fight Piotr Jan and he just loses the fight. But he easily could have beaten Piotr Jan as well. So his career will be unique in that, because even like honestly, his bantamweight career is not good. Like it is, for being a bantamweight champion, he is probably the weakest bantamweight champion ever. Like if you just look at his resume on paper, because his resume is he's lost all of his fights since being the champion, and his title resume was what? Marlon Moraes and the ghost of Dominic Cruz. Like those, Marlon Moraes at the time was a good win, but also Moraes lost his next 7 fights. And so like he is in a very unique position of being undeniably great, but also like the least great you can be with what you actually accomplished.
Yeah, he is an accomplished guy, but he is a serious what if. No doubt about it, especially if he loses this fight, because like I said, there aren't a lot of like Henry Cejudo fans that like love him on the microphone and think his personality is like the greatest ever, but people were starting to come around after the Cruz win. They were just like, man, this guy is just he just keeps winning. He's having exciting fights. He's on to something. Like he's doing the thing, whether you like it or not. You could talk trash, but if you back it up, it's not really trash talk. And then he left. It's still to this day, I will remember my reaction sitting in Command Center 1.5 or wherever it was, because there have been many command centers watching this all happen. And I was just like, what? He's retiring? Why would he do this? But, you got to do what you got to do. That's what he wanted to do at the time. So let me ask you this. I don't want it to be all gloom and doom when it comes to Henry Cejudo. This is a fight he can win. Song Yadong has struggled with fighters like Henry Cejudo in the past, guys that can take him down, that can put him on his back, that can use control time in order to win rounds. Cejudo is very good like that. He can be. It's a back pocket thing he can use, and Song has struggled with that despite training with Alpha Male and the Uriah Fabers for all of these years. And you could see gradual improvements in that department. But if Cejudo starts landing takedowns and putting Song on his back, it could be a very long night for him. If Henry Cejudo gets back in the win column, gets his first win since ending the retirement, what does this mean for him? Where does he go?
So basically, just means that he's not retiring, right? Like he's pretty far outside of a title fight. But a win is sometimes you just need a win to build your confidence, right? Like he hasn't won in 5 years. Like that is just a long time to not physically get your hand raised. And so Song Yadong is a top 10 fighter. If he goes out and wins this fight, he is still at the minimum one fight away, but it may just be one fight, right? Like there are windows of opportunity there because we have a new champion, like from the last year, Radvalishvili is the champion, and he is appears to be set to run things back with Sean O'Malley. Kind of seems like where things are going. Piotr Jan is sort of out there waiting, and so if Henry wins, I will be shocked if he wins and doesn't immediately call for a fight with Piotr Jan or Sean O'Malley, I guess. But I think Sean O'Malley would be a misstep because it seems like they're going to give him another shot, which is very dumb. Does seem like what's the trend. So like then he is one fight away. Then he beats Piotr Jan and he gets another crack at Marab. That won't go well for him. We saw the first fight. I have no reason to believe that that fight will be any different whatsoever a second go around. But you know, maybe Marab slips on a banana peel and rolls his ankle on the way to the cage, and somehow you can get there. And then, honestly, like the most important thing, this will arguably be the best win of Henry Cejudo's bantamweight career. If you look at the historically of like where Dominic Cruz and where Marlon Moraes were, those are his only two bantamweight wins. Like, hindsight's 2020 or whatever. Those didn't age all that well. Song Yadong is at worst going to age neutral and maybe even age better because he's still so young that he is probably going to be hanging around the top of this division for some time. So this is setup. This is a, hey, let's get back on track kind of win. Let's keep our name in the conversation. It doesn't lead to anything directly, but it does open doors for future opportunities for him and at least points him away from the retirement door, which is edging in, right? Like he's checking his peripherals and seeing retirement number 2 right here, right in the corner of his eye, and that can go away for a while if he wins.
Song's career has been very, very interesting. We've been kind of waiting for that breakout moment, and the UFC has given him a lot of opportunities. His losses in the UFC was Kyler Phillips in 2021, and Kyler Phillips brought the thunder. That was like one of those days for Kyler Phillips where he probably would have beat anybody that night. Then the corner stoppage against Corey Sandhagen, he was very competitive in that fight. He had the cut opened up and the doctor stopped the fight, but really fun ass fight. That was a fight for me where I remember Jose and I were doing the post fight show. We were just like, okay, this guy belongs with the Corey Sandhagens of the world in the octagon. He may not have won the fight, but he proved he belongs. And then he beats Ricky Simone in the main event, and then he beats Chris Gutierrez in a main event. And then he fights Piotr Jan, and the fight was competitive, and then Jan stole it in round 3. So the guy's really good. He is making improvements here. What does this fight mean for Song Yadong right now? Yes, you mentioned it. He is only 27. He is still 2 years away from the peak of his powers athletically and prime-wise. So there's still room here, but how many chances are the UFC going to give him to kind of get over that hump? So how important is this fight for him?
I don't think it's like that important because I just think they'll give him more chances because he is young, right? And like he's still developing. If he was young and just had looked bad, like and just hadn't looked improved, but he's getting better. And so maybe the UFC won't, they're not like incentivized to say, oh, let's try again with Song. But he's just young enough that another couple of years of winning will get him back there. He has more opportunities to capitalize on this. But more important, like a win is just this would be the biggest win of his career. I think undeniably. We could quibble in the same way that we can sort of after the fact look at Cejudo's wins at bantamweight and say those probably aren't the best. But it is certainly the biggest name he is getting to face, a former champion, a former Olympic gold medalist, a former two division champion, the greatest combat sport athlete of all time. Those, if you are listening later on the pod, that could not have been a more sarcastic, air quoted greatest combat sport athlete of all time. Just know my feelings on that matter. It is a big name win for him. And to your point, it is, I'm not sure it should count. Like, it will depend on how Cejudo looks, frankly, but it will feel substantive in the, okay, you've beat a top tier guy. Instead of beating these top 10 guys, now you've beaten a former champion. Now you are elevated. Now we can push you a little more and see if you are ready to run things back. He had the opportunity against Piotr Jan, fell a little bit short. This is basically another bite at that particular apple. And likewise, he's not close to a title fight, but he's not far away from one with a win on Saturday, right? One really good, like well-timed win, or two wins at like on top of beating Cejudo. And Song Yadong is finally fighting for a belt, which is a place I think a lot of us thought he would eventually get. And I still think he will eventually get there, whether it's in the next year or two. This fight will kind of determine that, I think.
It's really weird because you talk about his age. He does have a lot of mileage on him, though. This is his
Got them city
31st
miles.
professional fight. A lot of city miles on him. He's had 10 more pro fights than Henry Cejudo has had. He's had the same amount of UFC fights as Henry Cejudo has had, and the same amount of UFC wins as Henry Cejudo has had. So one of these guys will eclipse the other in terms of overall victories, and we'll see how it all plays out. But according to our friends at FanDuel, the betting odds, they are favoring the 27-year-old team alpha male product, Song Yadong. He's a pretty hefty favorite here, minus 280. The comeback on Henry Cejudo, plus 220. Because of the stylistic nature of this fight, Jed, I have to assume there's betting value on Henry Cejudo for if I'm looking at this through your lenses.
I have a bet on Henry Cejudo. I've come to feel a lot less good about that bet as the week has gone on. I do think the line is just pretty wide here for a style matchup that is decent for him. Like Cejudo can compete with Song on the feet. Like, I would favor Song certainly on the feet, but I think Cejudo is not out of his depth there, and he is clearly the superior grappler, better wrestler, and can mix the martial arts. Shout out to Alexander K. Lee, and so I think that this is just a really big number for a guy who I still think, like, yeah, he lost to Merab Dvalishvili. You know who else did? Everybody. Everybody. And all of them did. Like, Umar lost to Merab. I thought Umar would never lose. Like, everybody has lost to Merab. I don't hold that against him. He honestly was as competitive as anyone's really been against Merab. And the Aljo fight was extremely close. And again, having competitive battles with the two most recent champions, it's hard to really hold that against him. I think Cejudo still has gas left in the tank, and so odds are a little wide. Going back and rewatching some recent Song fights, I am a little more concerned for Cejudo. He's given up a fair amount of size here. Song Yadong could never make flyweight. He's given up a couple of inches and a couple inches in reach. I think weight-wise, they'll probably walk into Saturday around the same, but still giving up a little bit of size, a little bit of length. More importantly, Song really has gotten better at grappling. Like, he's gotten a lot better. You can still get takedowns on him. You got to work a lot harder for him. They don't come as easily. Cejudo is good about mixing his takedowns in as part of transitions from striking, like in the striking phases, so maybe you can catch him off. But some of the stuff that's been impressive in his recent fights is Song is not getting held down nearly as much. Like, he's given up some takedowns, doing a lot better of not giving up seating control time, popping back to his feet, making it work. If Cejudo can't consolidate takedowns, then this is primarily a striking matchup. And I do think that really favors Song. So feeling a little worse about my Cejudo bet in general, even if I do still think maybe there's a little value because the price is so wide. In a straight up pick'em, I think I have to favor Song Yadong.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, although there are paths to victory for Henry Cejudo. But again, this is the last run, this is my last chance, this is the last title, hope, etc. When you leave the door open like that you could walk through it and then close it and lock it behind you, that always gives me concern when it comes to picking fights. So I will go with youth. I will actually go with the more mixed martial arts experience here, although Henry's been in some big fights. But Song's been in some big fights too. He's been in multiple main events. This is his first main event in front of a big crowd. So he is excited and ready for that. And he feels very confident that he will be the man that will be a trivia question at a local pub near you that says, who is the final UFC opponent of Henry Cejudo? He wants to be the answer to that trivia question. So I think Song wins the fight. I think it's a tough ass start for him, but I don't think Henry finishes him. And I think the longer this fight goes, I actually do feel like it favors Song a little bit more. We saw it in the Ricky Simone fight, and we've seen the type of pace that Ricky Simone can put on guys, and he kind of just overcame it and just beat the soul out of that man. And I think this fight could look eerily similar, but the pick is Song Yadong by decision. One of those comeback wins. You might lose the first 2 rounds, but then come back and win the next 3. But it would not surprise me to see Henry Cejudo get his hand raised tomorrow. So pretty solid main event. Good stakes at bantamweight. We have Brendan Allen versus Anthony Hernandez. Love that fight. Rob Font no longer fighting Dominic Cruz, fighting Jean Matsumoto. Gian Silva, as I say those 2 names back to back, I'm certain now that you probably have a parlay of some kind on those 2 gentlemen.
You're damn
Gian
right.
Silva fighting. I was like, damn, Gian and Gian. There's no doubt about it. Mr. Gimmick himself. Melzik Bagdasarian will fight Gian Silva, who I believe was our runner-up for Rookie of the Year, but it was just such a runaway that we don't actually know. And Alonzo Menafield welcoming Julius Walker to the UFC. Julius Walker getting the main card treatment. So yeah, this is a main card, all right. Some good fights, some interesting fights. Anything stand out to you that you want to give some shine to? Because I'm sure the peeps are going to want to talk about the co-main event a little bit more. But if you want to choose that one, have at it.
I mean, no, I just imagine we'll talk about the co-main. Co-main is it's arguably the best fight on this card. I know it is a rematch from like 7 years ago at this point. So been a long time, wasn't even in the UFC. Both fighters have changed dramatically. Makes sense. Like it's a very good rematch, one that I am, and honestly just a stylistic matchup I am super excited to watch. So co-main it's a true co-main, no penultimate fight here. I think that it's terrific. You are spot on. There are 2 Jeans, and I am the Mean Gene parlay is in full effect. So uh, I didn't have a choice. Also, they are 2 of my favorite prospects from season 7 of Contender Series. I was super high on both Matsumoto and Silva. Matsumoto had a quieter UFC run thus far. He was 2-0 last year. Silva obviously was our functional runner-up for Rookie of the Year. Both of those are sick. The fight I will shout out outside of this because honestly, there are a couple of other good ones. Like I want to watch Ian Kutalaba, Ivo Aslan in the same way I want to watch a train wreck because like some carnage is going to ensue, and I just want to see what that looks like. But like I don't have any talking about that. It's like Ivo's going to hit him a lot, and Kutalaba's either going to die or survive, and then Ivo's going to falter and die. The fight I am probably the most interested as a whole, not just one side or the other, is the Ricky Simone Javid Basharat fight, the bantamweight contest in the prelims. So Simone is like quietly in free fall. Like, I believe he's lost 3 in a row, and this could easily be a pink slip derby for him. Like walking papers are possible here, which is insane to think because not that long ago, like I remember Ricky Simone fighting Jack Shore and being like, oh, that dude's going to be incredible because he is playing a different ball game than Jack Shore is. Now, Jack Shore, I think, retired. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like he retired. And Ricky Simone might be getting his release papers. The game moves quick, Mike. And Javid Basharat is a guy who could lose this fight. Like he could just give up a bunch of takedowns and get control trying to play off his back or whatever. But if he doesn't, like Ricky Simone's probably in trouble. And I'm just not really sure how that dynamic's going to play out, right? I think that these are like Javi Basharat is a guy who pretty high on his potential. Ricky Simone is a guy I was really high on and still has the tools, but something has gone horribly, horribly awry with him. And so that is probably the most both sides of it interested I am in a fight outside of the top 2, honestly. Like if I'm ordering the fights I want to see, co-main event, main event, I actually think that is the order I would do that in. And then it is probably this, even though there are plenty of other of my guys on this card that I want to watch. Who they're fighting is less relevant than in this matchup.
Yeah, there's a lot on this card. Yeah, you got E1 versus Ebo, Andre Fili versus Melchizedek Costa, Mansour Abdul Malik has. I mean,
He's going to kill
he's
me.
on
Come on.
he's on the All Violence rookie team. There's no doubt about it. That dude is a hitter, and expect big things from
Oh,
him against Nick Klein.
man, I need to make a note of that. I'm doing a rookie team next year. Hell yeah.
Do it. You got to do a
That was
rookie
the
team.
best idea you've had in ages.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm good for one every couple of years. The Simone Basharat fight, some stakes there. We have Nursultan Rudzabaya versus Eric Bakonico, which came absolutely out of nowhere. Modestus Bukauskas versus Rafael Cerquiera. And we'll get the UFC debut of Austin Vanderford, speaking of out of nowhere, fighting Nikolai Veretennikov. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it.
You got it.
Austin Vanderford getting the shine here. Lance Gibson wanted this opportunity and shouted it from the rooftops. He's from the area. You need somebody. I got you. Just throw me in there. I don't care who it's against. And then they give the shot to Austin Vanderford. And they didn't sign him after the freaking Contender Series win, which was a quick finish. They let him kind of rot in Bellator for a little bit, where he had some success bouncing around different weight classes. And now he's in the UFC all these years later, Jed. What are your interest levels in the UFC run of Austin Vanderford?
Dude, do you remember back in the day when a quick finish did not mean you were getting a UFC contract? Because like
I do.
it's one of the weirdest things to go back and look and be like, wait, Austin, that's right. Austin Vanderford finished a dude in like the second round, just choked him out. Didn't get a contract? No. Dude, they give contracts to everybody. They sure do. They give away 45 of them a year on average. And out of how many competitors? Like 100 competitors. It's not even 100 because they do 8 weeks or 10 weeks, 5. So it's about roughly 100 competitors. A little fewer because there are a couple of reruns back in there. And so like, man, tough scenes for him. Glad he's getting shot. Paige Van Zant, his wife, and he have both been wanting this, campaigning publicly and privately for it. Weird circumstances to basically be like, hey, everything else fall apart on this card, and we physically just need to put 12 fights on to fulfill our contractual obligations. Can you come to Seattle? And they're like, sure. But they don't ask how. They ask how many he's finally got into the UFC, and he gets an opportunity in a very winnable matchup against just a dude, basically. So good for them.
Yeah. So there we go. Let's see how old Nikolai can handle this opportunity. This is Nikolai's 35. I didn't realize that. Second UFC fight, he lost a very close split decision to Danny Barlow in his UFC debut back in August, and we'll see if he can get probably the biggest win of his career here. I mean, he's beat a lot of UFC. He's beat a lot of guys that you've heard of on the way up. He's beaten DeMarcus Jackson. He's beaten Anthony Ivy, who
We
guys are in the UFC. Charlie Ontiveros is in the UFC for a cup of coffee. So he's got some notable wins.
Nobody's going to mention this fight, but I do want to talk about this fight because I think it is quite possibly the weirdest fight that the UFC has booked. I would certainly say this year and maybe in the past several years. The main card matchup between Alonzo Minifield and UFC debutant Julius Walker is one of the weirdest fights I've ever seen put together on a UFC card. Alonzo Minifield is ranked, Mike. Are you aware of this? He is number 15 in the UFC's light heavyweight rankings. He is taking on a 6-0 fighter who made his professional debut like the year before last. He has been a pro for 2 years and like can't find a lot of his fights out there on the old interwebs. So honestly seems like a guy who probably should be in the UFC at some point, right? Like on No Best Bar this week, because I got this, like I found some footage of him. I was like, okay, you are 20. Let me look at this right now. Actually, he is 25,
25.
6-0. Pretty standard issue, like 6-0 run here. Like has his first few fights were against garbage. I was trying to think of a nicer way to put it, just trash. And then like has fought some relatively fair opposition as far as the regional circuit goes. Is finishing people, looking good, showing some skills, some tools. But like this is a dude who is supposed to go on Contender Series. Like, this is just a guy who's supposed to be a Contender Series prospect, and now he's just coming in and getting a crack at the number 15 dude in the world. It is such an insanely weird fight to make, and I can't get over how odd it is. Like, this dude is not one of the 15 best fighters on earth, but one punch will suddenly make him one of the best, and it is nuts that this is the world we're in right now.
Yeah, this could be who knows? And if Julius does win and he's automatically a ranked guy, like, does he rise up the ranks very quickly? Because Lord knows this division needs guys, but does he become like an Alexander Hernandez who knocks out Beneil Dariush and never got the chance to develop with the organization as a young man? Basically grew up and never became what he could have, I guess, in a lot of respects because of how they booked his first fight. So interesting matchup. We'll see. It's out of the blue. It's out of nowhere. And light heavyweights will also kick off this card with the curtain jerker, Modestas Bukauskas versus Rafael Cerqueira. And that's one of those fights where either Cerqueira is going to just destroy Bukauskas in the first minute, or Bukauskas is going to
tap him out.
He's going to batter him for the next 10 minutes and then get a late third round finish of some kind. So weird card, weird lineup, not what it was even 72 hours ago. Let's bring in.
Why is Kaysen not on this card?
Yeah, when Dana White announced all of this, well, he's coaching tough right now. But why is he not on this card? This is what he wanted. This is the card he wanted to fight on. So maybe they have something in store. Maybe they are going to book maybe he gets the Colby Covington fight. Maybe he gets the fight that DC and Chael want. A battle of tough coaches.
Let me tell you, Kaysen versus Colby Covington would honestly make a ton of sense for this card. That would be
Ferratno, yeah.
Like, that would be a really good, like, that is some of the juice this card needs to get it over the line here. But okay.
Yep.
Whatever. I guess. Like, this card weird.
Let's bring in Mr. 3024. Maybe sleeves, maybe not. I don't know. Oh boy. Full sweatshirt today for Casey. That's how much
mercy on that side of the table now.
We got the Mitch Raposo comment from the React show. Mitch Raposo becoming the new Parker Porter. It's incredible stuff.
God bless him. Hi, gentlemen. All right, what do we got here? Let's hit some super chats first. From Slito.
Fluffy feels like the quintessential 5-round fighter. He breaks his opponents. Does 3 rounds benefit Allen? So interesting point here, Jed. Obviously, I would say the 3 rounds benefits Brendan Allen in a significant way compared to if this fight was a 5-rounder like their first fight was. So how impactful do you look at the 3 rounds compared to the 5 in this matchup?
It's a Hyundai P benefits Brendan Allen. Mm-hmm. I think that this fight is competitive because it is 3. I was talking to AK this week. I was like, I'm thinking about making Fluffy Hernandez the climb bet this week. And then he accurately pointed out that this is not a 5-round fight, because in my head it just was. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. That's dumb. Because 3 rounds, like, Fluffy's not the fastest starter. He just never really has been. And so Brendan Allen probably will win the first round. Not 100%, but probably will. And then he just has to win 3 minutes of round 2 and then not die. Like, that's pretty doable. I still don't favor him to do it, but, like, Fluffy is one of those fighters that if he can just find a way to get to championship fights. Honestly, I wrote this about Petr Yan years ago. Like, I picked Sean O'Malley to upset Petr Yan because it was like, it's 3 rounds, he probably can do it. And so, like, why not? Not how that fight actually ended up playing out, frankly, but just fighters like him, like Merab. Nobody has a real shot to beat Merab over 5 rounds right now. Like, you got to get him. And now we're not even in a world where he ever fight for 3. Fluffy's the same way. Definitely advantage Brendan Allen. And what I would like to see from Fluffy is an acknowledgement that this is the case, and to say, okay, well, I'm just going to go a little harder earlier. Like, I don't have as much rounds to play with. I have the gas to go forever. So I'm just going to push a harder pace right from the jump and see if he can keep up and drown him quicker, because otherwise Brendan Allen's live here.
Yeah, I kind of think that's what's going to happen, because, I mean, Brendan's striking's gotten better, but he doesn't have the striking of Michel Pereira or like an Edmund Shabazian where Brendan can just dice you out of there with one shot. I don't know if he's going to respect Brendan's striking overall. So I think he can push that pace. He doesn't have to fear getting knocked out as much fighting a Brendan Allen. Brendan's a strong, athletic dude and can hit a little bit for sure. But I don't think Anthony will show him the same respect on the feet as he did to Michel Pereira, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I mean, I think it definitely helps Allen, but I do think Anthony comes out sprinting right away.
All right. Thank you much, Slito. Another super chat from our good friend Lazy Bed.
Silva tomorrow, Prochus April, Kaio fight coming?
I don't know.
Maybe.
I mean, at some point it will be coming. He was in attendance for 312. We saw a bunch of clips of him interacting with Izzy and stuff. My best guess is Kaio fights Nasruddin Imavov. And in my head, it would make a ton of sense for Kaio and Nasruddin Imavov to be the feature fight for International Fight Week, where Dricus du Plessis defends against Hamzat Chimaev. Because then, if and when Hamzat Chimaev fails to make it to the cage, because like 50% of the time he fails to make it to the cage, you just pick one of those two dudes to step in against Dricus. I think that makes the most sense in the entire world. So probably won't happen, but I would guess that's where I'm putting my eggs.
Yeah, I agree.
All
Or
right,
if they go to Brazil or something, that's the main event.
Also, more than fine.
Thank you, Lazy Bed. All right. Question from our wonderful friend Joseph Boza.
With Fluffy making weight and Mike having him on his draft team, does he like his chances to bank points? Also, AK is Gian Silva versus Melzik Baghdasaryan. Do they like AK's chances to bank points? Yeah. Gian Silva. Look. I think Melzik is better than people give him credit for, but Gian could beat him in so many different ways in this fight. Like Melzik can just strike. That's his best chance, but Gian hits so hard. And if for some reason Melzik wins some of these exchanges, Gian can just be like, all right, bet, I'm going to put you on your back and just rearrange your body parts a little bit. So that could very well happen. I feel very good about banking points, which is the reason why I drafted Fluffy to begin with, because if he wins this fight, he's going to be jumping up those ranks. He's not the youngest middleweight on the roster right now, but he's a guy who his time is now at this point. So I could see him being a little more active here. This is a guy who could fight again before the International Fight Week card deadline. So I feel pretty good about this, and I'm sure AK feels great about Gian Silva.
Well, you're basically guaranteed 25, assuming nothing happens between. Oh no, because this is co-main event. This isn't the main event, is it?
Yeah.
Never mind. You're not guaranteed main event points, but you do get ranked points should you win, whereas AK won't for Gian Silva. I like both men to win. I've picked both of them. I have bets on both of them. I think it is more likely that Gian Silva gets a finish, but I don't think either is particularly likely, frankly. I think that there's a good chance points come. I don't know that you're going to get a big haul, and so you should get more for the ranked portion of things. Because Melzik is better than people think of him.
Yeah.
So a little bit of trivia about Melzik or whatever. He switched camps, so he actually is trained for this camp at my gym. So I got to see Melzik train for Jean Silva, and I didn't train him personally, but I mean, he's really good. But like, I was just like, oh man, he's facing Jean Silva. That sucks. But he did train a lot of wrestling. So we'll see. I know it's an incredibly tough fight for him.
Mike, should we let Casey drop Bryce Mitchell from his team and replace him with Melzik Baghdasaryan?
No.
No,
you don't get points. You don't get points for karate combat grappling match, by the way.
You do not.
That's a whole other.
Wait. Was that real?
That's real. Yeah, that is sure real.
Karate combat grappling isn't that an oxymoron?
Well, there's a moron involved.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Just more. No. I deserve all the punishment in the world for drafting Bryce Mitchell. That's all. I accept. I accept it all. I got it.
It's tough. The rest of your team is doing amazing, though. All winners thus far. So
Yeah. Why do we have to bring this up?
Like
thank,
Joseph Bosa.
thank you both. Thank you, Mr. Boza. Um, uh, Answer that our question. A little off topic, but I'd like to get your opinions.
I like spicy mustard, but not horseradish spicy, like jalapeno or habanero.
Uh, what's
Shout
your
out
feelings of
Lazy Bed.
mustard, gentlemen?
I'm not a big mustard guy, honestly.
Wow.
It's fine, but I will almost never choose to put it on anything. If I were to do so, I would agree. I very much do not like the taste of horseradish. So if I was going to do it, like a jalapeno or habanero would be better. But like just in general, not a big mustard guy.
Yeah, it's okay. It's the condiment of choice. But I
Wow.
put hot sauce on everything. So, but if it's like a turkey wrap or something, hot sauce doesn't really work. So I'll throw just a little bit of yellow mustard on there. So
Yeah,
Little mayo, oil and vinegar. That's where I'm at.
I'm a
yeah, it's not
recent
bad. So
hot mustard guy. Like I love hot mustard. The mustard like where like it makes you kind of like where you go. Oh, I get what mustard gas must have felt like. That type of hot mustard. Yeah, where you're like
yeah, the
you get to the
brown,
point
the
where
I'm
you're like
brown
gonna
oh
stuff.
I'm gonna go on the limb and say you don't actually get
no
what
no no.
mustard
No,
has
when I put too much on my
because
dumpling,
you ate some spicy Dijon.
no, when I put too much on my dumpling, and I'm like gagging. Like, oh, okay, I get why this is a poison.
Yeah.
I was like, just give me more of that, and then I would die. So like,
Oh, as
One
yeah,
of
DJ
us.
Serenity
One
points
of
out,
us.
uh, like dishes that traditionally come with a mustard on them, I like good, but I'm just never going to add it to a homemade sandwich or whatever. But like a Cuban, yeah, rock it, like something
Sure.
like that.
all right, man, finding so much out. This is great. All right, thank you much. Lazy bed.
Mike, Jed, Casey, better prospect: Ebo Azan, Juicebox Walker, or Abdul Malik.
I think Abdul Malik, but there's a lot of caveats for that. So Ivo Aslan and Abdul Malik were both like top level prospects for me coming off Contender Series. Obviously, Walker is not. Probably would have been like a pretty high end. What I've seen of him on the regional circuit looked impressive. Impressive might not be the word, but he's a big, at least semi-athletic dude with a what looks to already be a well-rounded skill set at light heavyweight, and that frankly just carries you really far in that garbage division. Ivo Aslan is a good prospect by virtue of competing at light heavyweight and having some natural tools. Mansour Abdul Malik is like good. Like he is gonna be good. Like I am deeply confident. If I am betting on one of these two dudes, the others, some of their success will come, frankly, as a result of competing in just the worst weight class imaginable. But Mansour Abdul Malik is just like, yeah, he's 27 and has just a world of potential. I think I comped him to Joaquin Buckley. It's like, yeah, like that dude's at the minimum going to be a top 20 dude.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where when he lands a shot, you're just like, ooh. Every one he lands, you react to it. It's no like most fighters like they land a jab or they land like a right hand. You're like, oh, that was a good shot. But when that dude lands, it's theater. He
That's a
just
good
hits
way to
so
put it.
hard.
You're going to
Yeah,
see it on display too, because like Nick Klein is a fine fighter or whatever. They are not playing the same sport, and that's going to be. I think that's going to be really apparent on Saturday. Like that, they are just not doing the same thing at all.
Well, one of these gentlemen could be a ranked fighter on Sunday, so I think
I mean, that is true. So I guess by definition, Juicebox has a better chance to just be ranked because he might be ranked on Tuesday.
that's
Be
wild.
insane.
All right, thank you, Lazy Bed. I don't know if we answered this question, or did you guys talk about this?
who did Song get with the win? Got a couple of rematches ahead of him in the rankings.
I think that it's pretty obvious if he wins, he gets Umar.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
I mean, he's just
They
fought a lot
wanted
of
that
the other
fight
dudes
anyway,
ahead
so
of him. I don't think we've confirmed it, but there are rumors that Figgy is fighting Corey Sandhagen. I don't think,
not
like I
done
said,
yet.
I don't think we confirmed
Not
it, but
done yet.
that seems at least to be where the energy is going. The other dudes he's already fought. So, and like I said, I think Sean O'Malley's getting a title fight, and Piotr Jan is maybe getting a title fighter hanging out, and you just wouldn't run that back this quick. So I think if he wins, he's going to get Umar. I feel really confident in that.
And I'm assuming a win over Umar would be that's the fight he would need to get that title shot.
If he
Yeah,
beats Cejudo into Umar, his next fight will be for the belt.
yeah.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Lopsided. What else we got here?
I mean, they could throw him Jose Aldo too. Like that's very
We could.
possible.
Ooh,
I think Henry Cejudo and Jose Aldo should fight. That
yeah, that
just feels
makes
like a fight that should happen.
okay.
Unless, actually, really, Jose Aldo should fight Patricio Pitbull. Like, that's the fight that should happen.
I'll go up to four. Oh, yeah,
He doesn't have to. Pitbull dropped to 135 that one time. They could meet in the middle somewhere.
yeah. 140
I
would be
like
good.
it.
Pitbull's always kind of said he's a small featherweight.
He's definitely
So
not a big featherweight.
yeah, just yeah. Thank you, Lopsided. This one's for you, Jed.
Oh, good.
Jed, why do you want to watch a train wreck? People die and get twisted up and everything. Why would you want to see that, you crazy man?
I
This is
mean,
like such a Jed question.
you're the person who said that the train. I have a lot of train stories, which we will not get into because it would take us hours and be terrible. The train doesn't have to have people in it, but more the the metaphorical train wreck. You can't look away from it because, man, like trains are gigantic, impressive things, and when gigantic, impressive things go boom, that really scratches some of your like Neanderthal itch for big stuff happening. Like, what do you think watching like a Transformers movie is? That's just watching two train wrecks in human form. That's it. So yeah, like if you told me the amount of stuff I have seen on the internet that like many people be like, why would you ever watch this? Like, I don't know. The title said this, and I was like, I wonder what that looks like. It looks exactly like what you think it looks like. Train wrecks, I would absolutely watch a train wreck. It can be
Yeah,
tragic and still interesting.
you don't watch the Terrifier movies because of the acting. You watch them for the carnage. That's just
Nuance.
you weird people. Yeah, we're all freaks.
Like the coolest scene in a recent Batman movie is when he flips the semi truck, and you're not like, "Oh, think of the poor people in that semi truck." You're like, "No, that semi truck went end over end. That was freaking cool."
Dude, the final 15 or so minutes of the latest Mission Impossible movie with the on the train is one of the most incredible action sequences I've ever seen in an action movie. Like, so yeah, train wrecks are
The
awesome,
one's coming
guys.
out this summer.
Oh my god! I saw the preview. I was like, Tom Cruise, like, looks like he's 80, but still doing the thing.
Is he running
Respect.
still?
It's
He's
the
running.
last
He's
one.
running.
Oh, that's like all he does. It's
He's
like the
running.
entire. That was the entire trailer of him running in
Just
different
running.
lighting and different. Some running was in a mountain. Some was near a beach. Some was on a train. Some was on a plane. You never know. He was running everywhere.
I love those edits. It's just like 30 minutes of him running. Different movies. They're great. Yeah, I will watch anything. Super chat. Ooh,
Jed, 1 out of
I'm,
10.
I'm the
Kill
best
Jimmy.
out of 10. Sick.
congratulations!
I'm number one.
Wow.
Or
Thank you,
Got
maybe
it.
Achilles.
1/10. You're a fraction.
Oh,
Who knows?
I mean, that's a good
1/10.
fraction. I'm okay with that.
it's the
It's a
best
solid
fraction.
fraction.
Prefer an eighth, but you know.
Hey,
Hey. What else we got here? Quick one from Lazy Bed.
what
I'm
city
glad
that the
you picked
UFC
this
is?
one, 'cause I looked this up and figured I wanted to make sure I was right here.
What city that the UFC has neglected, like Seattle, would you like to see them return to next? I vote Cleveland. I was gonna
I
say
think there's a
Kansas
clear
City of all
answer.
places, but geez, they're going right back to KC, which is a
I'm thinking about
choice.
going to
But
that one.
okay,
Card doesn't look good. Still might go anyway. I think there's a clear answer. I think there's the most obvious answer in the world. So much so that I wouldn't even be surprised if they did go back there this year, depending on how things shake out. Chicago, because they haven't been to Chicago since 2018,
Really?
basically. It's a major market. And also, I don't know if you guys know this, two current champions are like Chicago connected. So, like, feels like they should really go to the third biggest market in North America.
When was the last time they went to Houston? It's been a while too for Houston. They used to go to Houston every year. Houston and Chicago were like every year.
Well, they had
Yeah,
a deal with
Chicago.
Houston.
Chicago was 2019, not 2018. Sorry
That's
on
okay.
that.
That's plenty long.
And
Yeah.
it was Henry Cejudo versus Moraes.
Oh,
Houston. When was the last time they went to Old
It
Houstonian?
wasn't that long ago.
Houston was
23?
2022.
oh okay.
Uh, Adesanya Whitaker 2.
I mean,
Oh, damn.
there is only those are great answers. There is only one answer to this, and it's not a city. I mean, perhaps maybe when you go to this place, it feels like you're in a city.
Scenic
Where's our
Arkansas.
Tachi? Where's our Tachi Palace card? What in the world?
You owe
They've been
them.
owed a card for
You owe
5
them.
years. Give it to
Fair,
them.
fair.
You could have you could have put this card in Tachi Palace. This could have been UFC Tachi Palace starring Henry Cejudo versus Song Yadong, and it would have been incredible.
Yes. That's so WC sounding. I like that.
Yeah.
I will
Tachi.
also, as I think Lazy Bed shouts out. I mean, I didn't choose this one because I honestly do think Chicago makes more sense, and two because it would be self-serving. They haven't been to Atlanta since 236, which they had just inducted a fight in or are about to induct a fight into the Hall of Fame from. Uh, they should come back to Atlanta. It's the biggest market in the Southeast. You should do that too.
Savannah, Georgia. Let's do that.
I mean, that would honestly be sick.
That would
Mike,
be
did
awesome.
you?
They had an arena.
I
They got an arena they could
I
do it in.
I know. I recently learned that Savannah has minor league, like bottom minor league level hockey team, and I
The Ghost
could not
Pirates.
be one. Arguably the greatest mascot name in the history of athletics. Two, I have a hat from them now that's sick, and I may actually go get it and show you guys. Three, I cannot wait to go to a game. I might go on the 7th, the Friday before we do the watch party for
Oh, dude, we should do that.
313. I got to see if I can
We
get
should do
tickets,
that.
but like, I only recently learned of this. I'm like, hell yeah.
We should definitely do this. I will also say, and this is bias,
Casey,
and
go
I
to
know
two
they had one
screens. I'm
not
going
that
to
long
step off
ago.
for a second.
Yeah, they should go to Boston every 2 years. Like it's a great market for them. They love the fights over there. There's a ton of Boston fighters and New England fighters on the roster, and it's not like nonsensical to put any fight in a main event there. It's not like, oh, you're putting this in Boston. You can't say that about a city like that. So that wouldn't be a bad one.
Look at
He's
this
got the Ghost
freaking
Pirates hat.
hat. Look
I
at
miss
that
it.
That
mascot.
Wait, hold on. That's it. That's good.
that is nice.
The mascot rules. Also, like for those who aren't deeply in Savannah lore, Savannah is a coastal town, and so there's pirate action going. But it's also one of the most haunted cities in America. So Ghost Pirates is
Congrats.
like both a sick name generically and unique like to the thing. And this mascot kicks ass.
There's an interview on MMAfighting.com. Myself and Jorge Masvidal right at night downtown Savannah, right before he was about to go do a ghost tour. So he knows about the haunting of Savannah.
It's very
No doubt about
haunted.
it. It's a very
Very
cool
haunted.
city.
Well, do you think would the UFC ever go back to the time when they would bring fight nights to like Hidalgo, Texas, or just like
No, if they pay,
Pretty
Is it just-
unlikely.
that just sucks. I miss like almost like their house. WWE has house shows in kind of small cities. Like that was just I don't know. Yeah. Like, going through those old timelines, I'm like, what? I'm like, what are these cities? I'm at like these cities maybe with 200,000 people. Like I just can't imagine now UFC doing that. It's just easier.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised
People
Savannah
are
doesn't get
likely.
more fight cards. Not even UFC, but like I'm shocked like PFL doesn't do Savannah, or some of
Legitimately,
these like LFA. Like I'm surprised that none of these other
LFA
promotions
probably
like try it.
should, actually.
Yeah, there's plenty of places. It's a
Dude,
cool city.
BKFC, like right off River Street, the
Oh
arena.
my god, dude, that'd be incredible. You could do it at the freaking
Rock that
convention
so hard.
center.
Savannah has open container laws. Like, how does BKFC not have a station there? Like, God,
Yeah,
that just feels like those two things are a peanut butter and chocolate combo.
Conor
that'll
McGregor
melt it out
in the
crisp
St.
delicious.
Patty's Day parade like every other year down there. Like Connor knows Savannah very well. BKFC should absolutely go to Savannah.
All right, I'm down.
If they do, we're going. It's gonna rock. I'm gonna wear this
Yeah.
Ghost Pirates hat constantly.
BKFC is a time, my friend. It is a time.
If they went to freaking Duluth, Georgia, which is a burb north of Atlanta, like 2 months back, and I couldn't go because it was the same weekend we were doing a watch party. It's like I have to go home. Can't do this. It's trash.
All right. One more question.
Yeah.
Not just about just topics.
Jed, Mike, and Mustache, do you guys get on with other media outlets such as MMA Junkie, Fight Stables, and Schmo, etc.? You all seem to respect each other and get on really well from what I can gather. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
My
I
stance
know.
is
I
that
know all those guys.
I mean, there are a couple of reasons for this. One, most people that work in the space I've found to be cool. There are some who I'm not like a huge fan of, and I think you could probably just guess those names or whatever. And maybe even a human being that's part of the collective that you mentioned in there. But like in general, if you treat me with respect and you're not named Michael Chandler, I will treat you back with respect. And also, like, it is a really small community to be in the MMA media, and you see each other at all sorts of things. You know each other. Even if like there's maybe one or two people that I don't get along with super well, I know plenty of people who do like them, and so I have a level of respect for them because the people I do respect get on with them, and you just don't want to burn any bridges in that way. And so like there are definitely some people I like more than others, and there are some people that I don't care for, but there's not really anybody I hate in MMA media. Like, I'm trying to think of somebody I hate in space. It's hard to
There's
come up with one.
somebody. Yeah, I like pretty much everybody. There's one person I don't like, and I don't know his name. But when I was covering the Tampa card, Miranda Maverick was doing her scrum, and as I'm asking Miranda Maverick a question, I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around and I look, and it's somebody with one of those like selfie sticks. And he's tapping me on the back, and he's telling me, he goes, "Get out of the way," and I'm like, "What?" So I was just like ignored him and kept going, and like I could feel myself getting really mad. And then I feel the tap on the shoulder again. And I finish asking a question. And Miranda's trying to answer it. And Miranda sees what's happening. She sees me getting tapped on the shoulder. She sees me getting red. And I turn around and look at him. And as softly as I could, I'm surprised this never got onto the scrum. I said, "What the fuck do you want me to do?" And then he kind of stopped. And then he left the room. And like, I don't know what it was. And then all of a sudden, like, a couple of guys from like ESPN came over and they're like, "Mike, you all right?" Because I saw how mad you were getting. And I was like, it was just rude, man. Like, I got the mic in my hand trying to ask a question and you tell me to move. Like, scooch over. There's like literally nobody sitting in the row behind him. He chose to
Miranda
sit like
Maverick.
right for Miranda Maverick. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, it was that. I don't know who that was. He didn't make eye contact with me the rest of the night. And yeah, that was the one time I had an issue with somebody in the MMA media. But I
And that's
wish him the
it.
best.
Because that's it, right? Like, I'm not going to hate anybody who I don't have like a personal issue with. And every event I've covered, everybody is really respectful.
Yeah.
You're all trying to accomplish the same things, and you maybe, but like nobody's being a dick about it because why would you? And so there are people I have personal relationships with and I'm on great terms with. And then there are just a bunch of people that I know and have like
Yeah.
respect for. And then there are a couple of people who I know and I do not care for them, but that's a me thing, not a them thing. Like nobody in MMA media has wronged me. Uh, if I have a dislike for somebody, it's because our personalities do not mesh. And I'm old enough and frankly, aware enough to know that I am probably more the issue than other people are.
No.
I
Come
am
on.
probably the problem in these instances as opposed to other human beings. So, like, that's fine. We don't have to be friends.
Yeah. Yeah, we can all get along. Nolan King from MMA Junkies, like one of my best friends in the business. We're both from the same area. We came through the industry together. We covered a lot of the regional events together. Like we're on opposite teams now, but like we're still cool. So yeah.
The only time I've wanted to actually like throw down at a media event has been when I've been at boxing events. Honestly,
Oh God, don't even get me started with that shit, man. Yeah. Those
and
are
it's usually
that's just tough.
yeah. At boxing events, I'm like, okay, fuck, we're gonna fight. like hold my
Yeah.
camera, Esther. But no, I like MMA
Ca-
media pretty much
Casey's
every.
lying to you. He's lying to all of you. Every time he sees Oscar, he thinks, I want to beat that kid's ass.
Hey, well,
You got to see it.
That's right. Come on. Don't be scared, Oscar.
uh, yeah, Mac Life, wonderful site. I love them. And our last question.
Sleeves, WTF, bro. Unsubscribe to bid.
Just kidding. He was just so angry. He was just so angry.
Yeah, you so
But
I get it.
but see, but like I'm repping Black History Month. So
All right.
Except for
Respect.
not, you're repping Black History year.
year. Black History Month is
Yes.
365
365 days a
Right?
year. Just reminder.
Somebody get him. Yeah, just somebody get him a tank top with that same
Yeah,
message.
I'll rip the sleeves off
I
later.
think
Yeah.
people will be happy. All right. I think we're good. Hit the music. We've given this card some shine. BTL, not a single question asked about UFC Seattle, and understandably so because of all the news that dropped. And I'm sure that trend will continue next week as well because UFC is going back to the Apex. And while the main event is somewhat interesting, the rest of that card is, oof, that's tough.
It's bad, Mike.
Tough time. It's pretty bad.
That's not even an apple picking card. That could be anything. Any other activity. That's a root canal card. You got anything else to do?
Clean your gutters. You know,
Yeah.
and yeah. These
all
baseboards
those
need to get
things.
washed. Yeah.
Yeah, spring
Anything
cleaning.
else.
That's a spring cleaning card, like downsizing card.
At the minimum, if you are watching this card, you should have it on in the background while you are cleaning your house.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%. But then we'll be on the road to UFC 313 tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. People's Pre-Fight Show. Myself and Casey, and we'll be with you all day and all night. Boxing, UFC Seattle, etc. MMAfighting.com. It's a wonderful website. For Casey, for Jed, I'm Mike Hack. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Arr! Boom. Ghost Pirate.